75% of all arthropods are insects, and of the arthropods, the hymenopterans give rise to the family Apidae, which stands for the long-tongued ones. And within the family Apidae are the honeybees. Honeybees are known to fly at temperatures greater than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And today we see that it's 57.5 degrees out, partly cloudy, partly rainy, and my Carniolans here are flying and foraging. Carniolans, which are the Apidae mellifera carnica race of honeybee, are characteristically dark bees with gray or brown hairs. These bees are native to the Alps of Europe, and some of the characteristics of Carniolans include that they are well adapted to colder climates. They're moderately slow at building comb. They have gentle disposition, meaning that they're not very aggressive to beekeepers. They are more conservative of winter stores, meaning that during the winter time they reduce their numbers, and during the springtime they quickly ramp up their numbers when the nectar is flowing. And because of their dark color, beekeepers often have a hard time finding the queen. Young queens, or virgin queens, go to the mating grounds away from the colony and mate with several drones, which are the male bees. After mating, she returns to the colony and the drones die as a result. Honeybees are very social in that they live in colonies. When the colony is in swarm phase, scouts will leave the swarm to seek out new nesting sites. When a new nesting site is found, the scout will lead the swarm to that site. Once the site is inhabited, the swarm quickly will build a new hive and comb so that they can produce new worker bees. The life cycle of a hive. Each hive contains one queen, a handful of drones, and a ton of worker bees. The queen will lay one egg per cell, and of these eggs, the female worker bees will emerge from fertilized eggs, and the male drones will emerge from unfertilized eggs. When new bees emerge, they start out feeding other larvae, including the hive. They then get promoted to building and constructing new comb. When they get a little bit bigger yet, they start to venture out to collect pollen, or they'll act as guards for the colony. The final stage of a worker bee is a forager. A forager essentially goes out and collects pollen and nectar. Mature bees live on a diet of honey and pollen. Larvae are strictly fed royal jelly, which is secreted from the hypopharyngeal glands in the head of young worker bees. The royal jelly is fed to all young larvae, but the queen larvae are fed about 20% more than the worker larvae. The queen is fed royal jelly throughout her entire adult life. Honeybees are economically important for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason being that they're one of nature's pollinators. The second reason, they provide surplus honey at the end of the summer, and then they also provide wax for candles and soaps and whatnot. This hive right here, the modern beehive, is convenient for beekeepers in that they can easily pick this hive up and transport it from one field to the next for pollination purposes. So right here we have a lid, we have a deep super, we have our baseboard, and then we have a typical front feeder. It's kind of sprinkling out, and it's not the most ideal conditions to open up the hive, but I'm going to go ahead and throw my mosquito net on and open the hive up and show you guys how the colony works, and if I can, try to find the queen really quick before they get too wet. Yeah. And so because of the weather, I'm not going to keep this hive open very long, but like I said before, I just want to show you what the inner workings look like. So as I mentioned before, bees are very social in that they operate based off of communicating by pheromones. And so you can see a lot of these smaller bees are young bees. Like that guy right there, he's a little bit smaller than the rest compared to this guy right there, or lady, I guess it's more appropriate. You can kind of see him on that comb right there. There's a little bit of honey and there's a little bit of pollen. And so what I'm going to do is scrape this off because I don't want them building on the lid. But that right there is a larva. I'm not quite sure what stage that guy's in, but that's a pretty big larva, so it looks to be like it would possibly be a drone. And so the worker bees take approximately 21 days to emerge from the comb once that egg is laid. The queens emerge approximately 16 days later, and then the drones take the longest to emerge at 24 days. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up and then button her down. It's kind of hard to find the queen. I'm not really want to get too far into this hive on a day like today. But what I'm going to do is just kind of clean this wax off so they quit building on the lid. And so hymenopterans are characterized by having 3 pairs of legs and 2 pairs of wings. So these guys down here are pretty mellow, you can see, but these guys up here are starting to become cranky. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and give these guys a shake. So that way I can clean this lid off without having to So here's a frame that they're just starting to draw out, and you can see how they build uniformly, and you can see all that honey that they have laid up in there. So here's the back side, which they're doing the same. And so when bees go to build their hive, usually they start at the inside and work their way out. But this particular case, there was a missing frame on the right, and so they started on the right and they're moving their way to the left. So if I can, I'll try to pull another frame out, one that's more defined or drawn out. Okay, so in this particular frame you can see where the larvae is by the darker cap cells. If you zoom in close, you can see Probably week-old larvae right off the point of my thumb there. And of course they have honey laid up on the outside. So still no sign of the queen, but I'm sure she's in here. Kind of hoping that she's not on this particular frame, actually. You can see that big patch in the center with all his empty comb, and that was larvae that have probably just emerged. You see larvae on the outside of that. So those little guys laying in there. Like I mentioned before, those guys get fed royal jelly to a certain point when they're big enough to start consuming honey and pollen. So I'm just gonna gingerly slide this back down in here and leave these guys be. Okay. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to leave all this comb that I scraped off the lid in front of the hive, and the bees will clean up all the honey and whatnot that they have stored up there.